the less willing they are to give up the good thing they got going. So that's the tension. But the president is not going to tolerate that. So
is this a student master situation? Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we got Mark Carney following in Justin Trudeau's footsteps in breaching ethics violations. Mark Carney with his first one, technically his first one. He's got more than one already at this point. But with the disclosure of Mark Carney's assets, people are going back through all the words he's said, the statements he's made. Mark Carney's in some hot water. And with all that, we've got Carney calling to save money everywhere possible, including the CBC. Got a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. Got this one here, a graph of real estate market, Red Pill Rick here, comparing the Canadian real estate market to a bubble, stages of a bubble, saying it's literally textbook bubble. What do you think? Looks pretty darn close. Yep. Are we going to see housing prices drop this much? That's the question. Because if it drops off a cliff even to down here, we're talking $300,000 for a house versus $700,000. Boy, would that make a difference in Canada. And while we're talking about housing, we got Shazzy Gully saying Airbnb folks are about to get wrecked. The CRA doesn't like those cozy guest suites. It sees it as a commercial business. And now you could owe 13% HST on your entire home sale. This is not a joke. This is true. So if you Airbnb your house out, as it says here, Ottawa slapped one owner with $77,000 for just switching to Airbnb. Do have that confirmed here right off of Remax website. They enforced a 13% sales tax on these transactions. Upon selling the property for $670,000, the CRA later assessed the former owner's $77,000 HST owed. They're basically treating it like the sale of a commercial hotel. Isn't that something? The government just trying to steal every little dollar from the people they can. We got Chris Stacey on the scene here, catching Mark Carney coming out of the building.
There is a tariff-free deal still possible. We're looking for an English clip, sir. Sure, Canada.
103 conflicts.
Is a tariff-free deal still possible, sir?
Mr. Carney, you said you had no possible conflicts of interest. We now know you have 103. Mr. Carney, Mark, look inside yourself. What do you have to say to Canadians who feel they've been lied to?
That was gold, man.
Mr. Carney.
If you ever see him anywhere, say that. Look inside yourself. Off he goes.
Mr. Carney.
Got this one from Elevate Podcast saying Carney's approval rating comparison to Trudeau and Harper's at the same time around 52% versus 63 versus 61. That is interesting. Is that approval rating tied to this not making a deal with Donald Trump? Quite interesting here. Donald Trump has made a deal with Indonesia, which will have 19% tariffs on goods imported to the United States. This morning, I finalized an important deal with the Republic of Indonesia after speaking with their leader. Landmark deal opens up Indonesia to the entire market of the United States for the first time in history. As part of this agreement, they'll be purchasing $15 billion in U.S. energy. Take note, Carney. This is how they're doing this deal. So you have to do a better deal than this to get no tariffs. $4.5 billion in American agriculture products, 50 Boeing jets. Very suspicious because every deal seems to have Boeing jets in it, including the UK's. Many of them 777s for the first time ever. Our ranchers, farmers, fishermen will have complete total access to the Indonesian market and over 280 million people. And on top of that, 19% tariffs. So Carney's deal has to be a lot better than that. Next up, we got Kate Harrison absolutely blasting Mark Carney and the Liberals here on CBC.
I want to start with you. It is a fact that other countries are not getting deals that don't include tariffs at this point. Was this the inevitable conclusion of where things were going to land for Canada?
I'm getting very confused, Catherine, about where to put my elbows. They're up and they're down, and if they keep moving that way, we're going to look like a bunch of chickens. The Prime Minister has an expectation management problem. You referenced it off the top. He billed himself during the election as the guy that would get a good deal for Canada, and the reality is that our tariffs are higher today than they were on election day. We had the doubling of the steel and aluminum tariff. We now have this August 1st threat. So we don't appear to be closer to a deal than we were on election day. And that is a problem for the Prime Minister because he billed himself as the guy to get it done. So what can Canada be doing? If tariffs are the reality and other countries have them as their reality, what are we doing to systemically make investment in Canada better? So far, the proposal has been to expedite energy projects to, 2 years, while other jurisdictions are moving faster than that. The U.S. is changing things like their corporate tax rate, or they're at least looking at systems to attract more business investment, and that's totally absent the tariff conversation. So we seem to be very focused on, how we might tax bourbon and ketchup a little bit more to hit back against the Americans and not addressing some of the big challenges that exist for Canada's economy to thrive.
You do say we do not appear to be any closer to a deal. I think we have to acknowledge, and it's something we heard a few times during this show, we just don't know what's happening behind closed doors with negotiations. We may well be closer to a deal. We may not. No one.
Part of the challenge I would observe is that it's been the prime minister that has been setting deadlines that the U.S. seemingly is not abiding by. You know, we had this conversation about an agreement to agree around the G7 within 30 days. Then that got moved to July 21st. Now it's looking like August 1st that ostensibly something could happen. And the U.S. are certainly not the ones setting these deadlines. So again, the prime minister.
August 1st does seem to have been set by the
so
president.
So the 30 days exiting the G7. So my point is that the prime minister is the one that has raised expectations, and now he is having a difficult time meeting the expectations that he has set.
She knocked it out of the park here. I saw a report somewhere that basically the critical minerals thing is back on the table. We saw that report that got pulled down maybe 3 weeks ago or so, that Donald Trump is trying to get access to our critical minerals because China has a lot of them. China does like 90% of the processing of critical minerals, and America wants to stockpile them. You see this here from CNBC. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said in April that the U.S. government was looking at taking direct equity stakes in critical mineral and rare earth miners to break China's dominance. Trump administration is also looking at stockpiling critical minerals. So I think this is 100% going to be in the deal if a deal is ever made. This seems to be their number one thing they want from us. And that deal would be that first access to critical minerals, oil and gas at bottom barrel prices. Elbows down. Moving ahead in some bombshell news here, we've got Mark Carney breaking ethics laws. So Rebel News dropping this one. Mark Carney was lobbied by firms listed in ethics filings after federal election. North River Midstream lobbied Mark Carney on April 30th, and then he met with Brookfield Infrastructure CEO Sam Pollock on May 6th, despite both interactions conflicting with his ethics screen. Mark Carney doesn't care. That's what it is. He doesn't care. In the middle of a crisis, Canada's biggest crisis, he flew off to Australia. He doesn't care.
I own nothing now. I came into public life at a time of crisis. I put my hand up because of the crisis, because of what's represented by that bridge, what's represented by the threats to these good men and women of Unifor.
He would probably care if he had to put on an orange jumpsuit and be cleaning toilets for the next 35 years, somewhere where his money couldn't save him. So scrolling down here, as it says, North River Midstream lobbied on April 30th and then met with CEO on Sam Pollock on May 6th. So if we take a look at North River Midstream, I've got it right here on the board, number 26. So it is, in fact, on his self-appointed conflicts of interest right here, North River Midstream, number 26. North River Midstream, Inc. is a privately held Canadian energy infrastructure company specializing in natural gas gathering, processing, and transportation, headquartered in Calgary, Alberta. It operates primarily in northeastern British Columbia and northwestern Alberta, serving key markets in the U.S. Pacific, Northwest, U.S. Midwest, and Western Canada. So natural gas processing, transportation, etc. So he met with this CEO despite him having conflicts of interest with this company. Goes on to say here, furthermore, Carney's election pledges align with major Brookfield investments. I've been banging this drum for a while now, including his praise of Westinghouse, a nuclear firm he acquired at Brookfield. His housing plan promoted prefab homes, benefiting Brookfield's Modulaire. His AI policy supporting Brookfield's Compass data centers and Data4, all of which financially benefit him. It's not just that. We've got Westinghouse Nuclear Services. I've done an entire video on this already. As it mentioned, CEO of Brookfield Infrastructure Partners. It mentioned Compass data centers, which this one here, Brookfield Infrastructure Partners bought this alongside Ontario Teachers Pension Plan acquired Compass data centers from Redbird Capital Partners, etc., etc. Approximately $1.35 billion with BIP's equity portion around $375 million. It also mentioned Data4, this infrastructure one in France, but as you can see here, I've got more of them. We've got the Swedish AI data center, which they just invested $10 billion into. This one in India, Digital Connection. We've got Ascenti in Latin America. We've also got Center Square in North America. We also have Hotwire Communications, which they also just bought recently, and Intrepid Fiber Optic Networks. Even in the examples there of the data centers, they mentioned two. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They also mentioned Modulaire Group, which is part of Brookfield Business Partners.
What I've done is put all my affairs in order well in advance. I own nothing but cash and personal real estate. So, and that's not going to change. In public life, that's not going to change. It's actually quite straightforward.
Mark Carney's more conflicts of interest than every other person in Parliament combined. I'm convinced of it. And just to show the receipts here, so Enbridge closes federally regulated portion, natural gas gathering, Brookfield infrastructure, there it is there, $4.3 billion transaction. This was July 4th, 2018. Here's another official release from it. Here's another one here, $4.3 billion transaction. And during the campaign trail, Mark Carney did in fact praise Westinghouse. It's right here on CBC. During leaders debate, Carney praised a nuclear firm he bought while at Brookfield. An investment fund co-headed by Liberal leader acquired 51% of Westinghouse in 2023. That is exactly when Mark Carney was chair of Brookfield. It's a great opportunity, responded Carney, adding it's up to the province to decide whether or not to invest in nuclear power. He always says it's a great opportunity when it's enriching his bank account, like he said with Infinity. We put $1 billion to work as a great opportunity. This guy's a green grifter, buying up these companies, forcing green policy on countries, and the people suffer for it. He gets rich. We have a great advantage here in Canada. We have uranium. That's one of the advantages. We have major nuclear companies, including Candu, Westinghouse, and Camco. Great thing to say when you're invested in Westinghouse, Camco with Brookfield.
So then, just to be clear, then going forward, you have no potential equity stake, no potential stock options, or any other potential future payments that you currently anticipate could come from either Strike or Brookfield.
So what I have is cash, personal real estate, and they're assets that were, all those assets were divested into a blind trust, which is managed by a trustee. And it literally means exactly what it says. I don't know what's in it.
This guy loves Canada so much, yet he barely has any stocks in Canada. Should note too, I'm adding a category for filter, so we'll be able to filter all of these companies to know which ones are in oil and gas, which ones are in food or transportation or aeronautical or whatever. Mark Carney becomes prime minister at the end of April. Then by May 6th, he goes and meets with North River Midstream, already a conflict of interest. He lies about having conflicts of interest before the election. He says he complies with the rules. 120 days later, it's found out that he's not only lied to Canadians about his conflicts of interest, but he lied about violating them. This guy needs to be thrown in jail. But don't worry, folks, that's not all. We've got this story here. Carney campaign director launches strategic firm as new Liberal government gets to work. So some of these Liberal crumb snatchers are starting their own consulting firm, and they're calling it Catalyze 4. This is unbelievable. Liberal Party's campaign co-directors launching new strategic firm with roster of political governance and policy experts in a bid to translate the party's successful campaign blueprint into one of the private sector. Andrew Bevan's new firm is called Catalyze 4, a deliberate riff off the word Prime Minister Mark Carney used repeatedly during the campaign. So it goes on to say that Mr. Bevan, a former senior public servant, Andre Juno, Jean-Michel Pincher, Brian Guest, and Jim Plimbett, all senior advisors in the Paul Martin Liberal era. Tim Welch, whose infrastructure consulting firm is behind several recent major projects as well. Bunch of Liberal crumb snatchers trying to get these big consulting money. And we've got this story here where Carney wants to cut $200 million from the CBC. Wait a sec, am I the only one confused here? Wasn't he serenading the CBC like Celine Dion during the campaign? This is bizarre because Carney gave CBC like $170 million, something like that. Yeah, even Jasmine's got it here, but didn't he give him $170 million? And now they're cutting this? They'd be cutting this $200 million from the CBC over 3 years too. It's not like immediately. So it says here $98 million for the first year and then rising to $198 million within 3 years. This is a clown show. They give more money to the CBC. Now they're making cuts from the CBC. They clearly don't know what they're doing with our money. Mark Carney's supposed to be some rock star banker. He can't seem to balance the books, can't seem to do basic math. What it comes down to though, he's not a stupid man. The clown show he's running here is to enrich himself. Meanwhile, in America, they've brought in $106.1 billion in tariff revenue so far.
The more a country takes advantage of us, the less willing they are to give up the good thing they got going. So that's the tension. But the president is not going to tolerate that. So that's where we're at. I would say that for the American people, these tariffs are a great boon. I brought a chart here. It shows that we've already collected like $100 billion of tariffs.
A record for
alone.
a single fiscal year.
Yeah, and one of the things that really bothers me is that we're up to 18 billion now or so with China alone on the fentanyl tariffs. And so they're willing to give us $18 billion in tariffs, and they still won't do what they promised back in 2019 directly from the president of China, which is to stop killing Americans. So the tariffs are working, and they were these kind of revenues that we're getting is a very important part of the big beautiful bill in terms of financing that. as well. So we've got an external revenue service that's going to augment the internal revenue service. And we're moving for a structural reset of the international trading environment, which by any measure is skewed against us.
That's a lot of money, but that's a lot of money they're taxing on their own people, $106 billion. What will happen, though, is some companies will move to America and then not have to pay those tariffs, which then it does make it better for America if this plan works out. And a lot of people questioning here, well, he has to give tax cuts, otherwise this really isn't a good deal for America. Trump's getting blasted on all sides because he's clearly lying about the Jeffrey Epstein files and releasing them, saying there's no client list when clearly there is a client list. That's why Maxwell was taken into custody. And this is also shaking up that case, because if he says there's no client list, then that potentially removes some of her charges.
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring.
Okay, he's clearly lying here because Americans want justice. They want to know that the elite get charged for the horrible things they do. That's why they're interested. People don't have an interest exactly what went on. People want to see justice. They want to know who's on these lists and they want to see them punished. Trump shuffling this under the rug. We can all see he's lying about this.
And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
His base is not buying it, man. So I can't exactly read this guy's message here, but the gist of it is the people want to know that they're not controlled by the very thing that seems to be controlling this situation. He's lying. We know he's lying. He knows we know he's lying, but he keeps on lying somehow. The people not believing in Trump, I mean, he gets asked about this again in the same day.
On the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review, the Attorney General briefed you on that.
On what? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden. We went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it. But she's handled it very well. And it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
So I have the black book. Donald Trump is in there. The client list, though, they're refusing to acknowledge it exists. The people aren't buying it. They know this is a lie. Why did his administration arrest the Epstein trafficker? That's just it. And if they say that there's no evidence there, then Maxwell will get a reduced sentence. And then Trump's legacy will be that he let this trafficker get off easy. This is a mess of a situation for him.